and welcome to this week's episode of the Author Spotlight, where we get to find out from another author what the highs, the lows, and what they wish they'd known before. And I know that you're going to want to listen to this man, because Karen has sent me a little bit of insight into how he made money before he even published his book. And I know that not having the money to publish a book stops so many authors. So please tune into this episode, leave your comments and ask your questions, and we look forward to responding to those lately. But without any further ado, please welcome James Morehen to the show today.
Hiya.
Hiya, James. So please tell me, the name of your book is?
The Performance Nutritionist.
The Performance Nutritionist. So becoming an author for you has been like what?
It's been a very good experience and process, to be honest. I'm an author of academic publications as part of my PhD, but to be an author of a book has been a very nice feeling indeed, especially getting it on Amazon and out to the global world.
So why is it you wrote this particular book then?
So like most careers, there's people that just seem to propel and gravitate their way upwards quite quickly. And one of the things that I wanted to understand and explore in nutrition is why certain performance nutritionists study their degree program and then get the bigger jobs in sport quite quickly. And so I'd kind of been through my own journey myself, studying an undergrad, master's, PhD, and then getting that job in pro sport. But my journey is just one of many. And so I wanted to explore, uncover, and ask, what the journeys of other successful performance nutritionists looked like, to really share those journeys, experiences, the ups and downs, kind of the lessons that those had learned in the industry, but importantly, how the younger practitioner, the nutrition student of today, could learn from those that have got those jobs now in professional sport.
Definitely. So it's like shining the light on the path ahead for them, isn't it? That's great stuff. So what's been the most important thing that you've learned as in terms of becoming an author and actually getting this book published?
One of the biggest things for me was just sticking to kind of deadlines and making sure that if Karen was asking me to do something on time, that I was getting it to Karen on time. Inherently, I imagine most people, certainly me, I was balancing this project alongside working full time and many other things that go on in our lives. And so without the deadline and the strict kind of times that we had to meet, this could have quite easily turned into instead of a 3-month, 4-month project, this could have been a 12-month project. So Karen talks about it a lot, but just that ability to just write something every day and to get yourself into the book, even if it's 15 minutes or 20 minutes, that's better than palming it off and almost having the attitude of, I've missed the opportunity today. So The biggest thing I've learned is just writing every day, just getting something done.
Fabulous. I shall have to take a leaf out of your book, because mine's been dragging on somewhat. I've done my first one, but my second one is Karen just keeps gently asking me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting there. So I will take that one on board and get back to every single day writing. What do you wish you'd known before you began?
Probably the difficulty, or not difficulty, but the challenge of writing a book that is in a format that people want to read. And I say that because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm from quite an academic background, and so the way that you write for journal publications and the way that you write your studies up to get through the review process to then become published in a journal is very different to how you write in a book. And so it's probably understanding that difference to start with, and just being aware of that, but then also trying to catch yourself from going quite academic and formal to very, very conversational. I think there's that bit in the middle where books are, certainly this book, because it was an interview process, it is quite conversational, but just making sure that it doesn't become too much like we're sitting in the pub on a Saturday.
Yeah. So what worked for you then to keep it in that bit where it's sort of between that conversation and the academic? What sort of worked for you to do that?
a lot of refinement, if I'm honest. Reading through it again and again, and thinking about those filler words that we all put into conversations, which in a academic journal you simply can't have, because you normally there's a word limit and you have to stick to that word limit. And then the conversational pub language side of stuff, there's always a lot of waffle and stuff around the outside that just isn't important to put in a book. So it was really refining that and making sure that the sentences were exactly the words that needed to be in there and no more, really.
I feel like I could sit and have a conversation with you about that all day, just about how do you decide which words need to stay in there, because it sounds like you had that as an existing skill with the academia, and then perhaps it was more about learning to leave some of it in to keep that conversational stuff there. It's a really good point, and I think it's one of those things that authors struggle with. And I know I just said yesterday that for me, the next level is getting really clear on what the structure is going to be and what the tone is going to be for the book, so that you can really get clear, because you have to have those calibrators, don't you, of what you're evaluating against, so when you're doing your edits you can make those decisions. What was your lowest point as an author? It's a question we ask, assuming that you have had one.
I mean, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'm very positive in every situation I ever face, but I wouldn't say I've had a low point. I would say there are definitely periods, it might be a late evening, and Karen's expecting a draft tomorrow morning, and it's the realization that you haven't done as much as you wanted to that week, and you've now got to have a session on your own in the office in the evening for 2 hours. But again, it's not a low point, it's just part of the challenge, isn't it? It's part of the journey of getting your book out there and becoming an author. So I mean, one thing for me, I'm always looking at kind of what's next, and so publishing the book on Amazon and getting it out on my website and having a physical copy was amazing. And then for me, it was then, okay, what's next? Okay, it's now, let's work towards version 2. And again, it's not a low point, but it's the realization that that little project and challenge that I set myself is done. Now is the important thing of promoting it and keeping the marketing happening, and then starting version 2.
Yeah, it's a valid thing, and I think whether you use the word lowest or you cause the challenge, it is that thing. You can put a lot of effort and time into it, and then you get it published, and you realise you've got loads of work to do afterwards to keep everybody knowing that it's there. And I certainly can relate to the late nights. What I will take away from listening to you again is that reminder, actually, of the accountability and a deadline. Because I think if you don't have somebody who's waiting for that copy, it would be so easy in life, isn't it, just to, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll wait till later. So that's what I'm really taking from listening to you.
Yeah, and I purposely set up a pre-sale link. So again, this was part of my primary research, but I put up a pre-order sign-up form to see, okay, in my head, this was an amazing project to do, and I genuinely felt like there was an audience out there to purchase the book. But the only true way to find that out was to put a link out there and see whether people signed up to the pre-order form, which 260 people did. So I then knew, okay, there's 260 people that are willing to read this book and buy it. And now, the longer I wait to publish it, the longer I'm not going to get paid, and it just becomes a project in my mind. So that was also another reason why I set up a pre-order form, to motivate me to say, right, there's some genuine willing buyers there, and that definitely kept me motivated. But I work in performance nutrition, and it is all about accountability, because anyone on planet Earth knows that if they eat Domino's every single night, they're probably not going to be in the best shape they want to be. And the accountability there is the person that puts the food in their mouth. And I constantly say that to my athletes and clients, that unless I sit there with a golden spoon next to you, you are the one that has to control what you eat and what you drink. No one else can do that. And so there's an accountability there through nutrition as well.
Yeah, so that's a muscle you've already got. So I guess by having that pre-sales page, and I know that's something that Karen really wanted to make sure we talked about, because you did have huge success in getting 260 people. So what happened before that? Where did those 260 people come from in order for you to get that sort of rate of sign up? What was the process that you went through?
I mean, process-wise, I've always been one, and this works very well in the nutrition industry, but I I don't see why it wouldn't work in other industries as well. But for me, as a student, when I was studying, and even now, I was always someone that would never say no to anything. And if I didn't know how to do something, I'd say yes and learn how to do it. And I guess that willingness to always help someone out and build my network and have lots of friends in different areas and university, just as I was a student, it allowed that network of people that I knew to build and just expand. And I think the art of selling something to an audience is knowing a lot of people and be willing to kind of put it out there. So over the years, I've always done that anyway. And then I've always kind of put my hand up and said that, yeah, I'll present at that university and I'll talk about my journey as a student, or I'll present on, team sport nutrition for rugby players at a university. So I then built up quite a good link and contact at different academic institutes across the UK. And then I've got my own Twitter handle, I've got my own Instagram page where that is all about research, sport nutrition, kind of my career, the things that I do in the applied world. So anyone that follows those pages, I hope, have a genuine interest in the stuff that I put out. Yeah. So I then had an audience on Twitter, an audience on Instagram, and then contacts and links in the industry, so that when the book came out, I then had the ability to email all of those people that I knew at the university to basically say, look, here's my book. Do you want to buy some copies to give to your students on your cohort? And also, when I put it out on Twitter and Instagram, I had the audience there already. And then I also emailed the 260 people that I had on the sign-up form. That was the process, really. That's okay. So yeah, that was the process that I went through to kind of get the book out to as many people as I could.
You don't want to do is get a tickle in your throat, do you, in the middle of an interview? So I do apologise for that. I'm just going to have to cough again. Not that you're making me cry at all, James. Honestly, I'm fine.
I don't normally have that effect.
You've brought me to tears. I don't think I can cope with this now. So what I'm hearing, if I summarise that, is about building that network. So I think for people who do take longer to write their book, and it's something that Karen and I both talk about a lot, it's really important to keep other people engaged with your journey and let them know that you're writing the book. So if you do it over a shorter period of time, then you've got to start building that network if you don't already have one. Whereas for you, that's naturally who you are as a person by the sounds of it, and you've actually kept in touch with these people and you've given them to that network and supported that network. So it's been easier to go back and say, here, I've got this, are you interested and can you help me promote it? Do you think there's anything else about...
Sorry, I was just going to say, in my industry, my network, a lot of my friends and colleagues are nutritionists in the industry. And so before I even started writing the book, I asked them about the idea, and I said, do you think if there was a book available, you wish that you could have read that when you were a student and just starting out on your career? And they were like 100%. Because every book in our industry at the moment is quite scientific and mechanistic. And so I quite often think about other industries and, let's think of the manager at Amazon who looks after 100 people. How did that person get into the role? How did they get to their job there? And it would be quite interesting to learn and listen about how different managers in different organizations get their jobs and progress through their careers. So there's definitely a way that this template could be mirrored in different organizations and different career paths.
So I think the three things I'm hearing from you, first of all, you've got people involved at the very beginning and actually ask them what they'd want in the book. You then checked that people wanted the book, that just knowing the information was there, and you've gone back to existing networks, whether it's your Instagram and Twitter and your contacts within the university, and you've emailed them and actually said, here it is, and can you help me promote it? And I think it's so important for people to be able to ask for that kind of help and that support, and to get people involved early on, because if you don't know what people want or what people need, you can just go off on a jolly ride writing about what you think, which may well be useful to you, but it's not going to have the wider network of people that are buying into it because they're part of that journey from the very beginning. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And one thing I would say is that I had, because I'm quite open to speaking to people people. I had quite a few people message me on LinkedIn over the last few years asking me about my advice and what tips would I provide them if they're just about to start a career in nutrition. And so it started planting the seeds that, hang on a minute, there's a lot of people asking me the same things here.
Yeah.
So that's what got me thinking about there's a genuine book
Yeah.
that could be written.
And I think that's where a lot of book ideas come from, isn't it? When we're repeatedly asked the same question and we're having to answer the same thing over and over again, it becomes a much more efficient way to be able to give people more in-depth responses if we can get that all together in a book. So obviously you've been very successful because you did sell the book before you'd even finished writing it. You're actually still in the sort of developing stage when you started to actually sell the book itself on your sales page. Is there anything else? What's been your biggest success to date with the book, unless that is it?
The sales is obviously amazing. Like that's something that's always nice. It was a goal of mine in the year 2021 to publish a book, and so I achieved my goal. Getting yourself on Amazon and seeing yourself rising up the ranks is always quite nice. So got into the top 30, which at one point was great under the nutrition genre. And then what's been nice now is that I can use this version 1 of the book as a stepping stone to actually now reach out to probably more globally recognized nutritionists and invite them to go into version 2. And because they've seen it being promoted, they've seen students talk about it, I think if I play this project smartly, this could become a version 6, 7, 8, 9, and become a key text for a lot of these nutrition students that are studying at universities now.
So is it your intention to literally update this and have a second edition of it, or are you talking in terms of having a second book, a new publication that will have a sort of more information in it?
Yeah, so what you said initially, so a version 2 of this book where it would be 10 completely different nutrition practitioners globally that I then interview and ask them about their journey and their lessons and the key things that they've learned as a nutritionist in the industry. So I've got my first interview this week on Thursday for version 2, and then it will be a case of learning myself about the lessons of writing your first book and making that project a lot shorter and spinning it around a lot quicker, because the first time you do something, there's always things that you learn, which if you were going to do it again, you would do things a lot quicker. So that's the plan, a fresh new 10 people.
Fantastic. So I'm going to pop the link below just so people can get hold of it if they want to. This is the Amazon link, so you better get hold of it. I can also pop it in the chat box if I'm very clever. I'll just try and do that here. I think I've still got it in this. She says, no, I haven't. I'll go to the thing now and get your link out. We're going to pop it underneath. So just tell us a little bit about the book again and who it's for while I do the bit on the bottom so people can actually find out more about you and what you're doing.
Yeah, so this is the book that you'll see on Amazon, and the title is simply The Performance Nutritionist, but it's insights, reflections and advice from practitioners working in elite sport at the moment. What the book is about is I've interviewed 10 different practitioners that, in my opinion, are successful in their own career, and asked them the common questions that I was getting asked by others, but also probably the common questions that when you're a first year student sitting in your first lecture at university and you look at the person that's got the dream job in your eyes, it's the questions that you want to ask that person. What did you do as a student? What's your, what advice would you give me now that I'm 21 and you're 35? How do I get a job in sport? Is there anything you learned that you wish you didn't do? So it's all of those little things, those golden nuggets that, you want to ask your mentor, you want to ask the people that are in the job that you want. And so it's all in that book, really.
Fabulous. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. I look forward to having you back again, I'm sure, when version 2, 3, 4 or 5 or 6 comes out. And I wish you all the best with promoting this book. So again, thank you for joining me today.
All good. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. So that's another episode of the Author Spotlight. So again, if you are somebody who wants to get your book written, please remember to get in touch with myself or Karen and make sure that this year is your year to turn your book writing dreams into reality. Until the next episode, I'll see you then.